Hi there, and welcome to the Graduate Researcher Know-How series devoted to academic style. I'm Jen Anderson from the postgraduate team in the Study and Learning Centre at RMIT University. This grammar-related unit focuses on in-text referencing. If you're not confident about using referencing techniques with academic flair, then this workshop can help. Remember, you can pause the video anytime you want to read more closely or make notes. As you're aware, referencing or citing the work of others in your writing is an essential part of academic life. We reference others because we want to show that our work is connected to the existing body of knowledge, which has emerged as a result of rigorous thinking, research, and scholarship. We believe that it's important to know how the ideas of others have influenced your thinking, both directly and indirectly, and to acknowledge this connection. In this workshop, we're going to explore academic conventions of quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing, and show how different types of in-text referencing affect the meaning of your text. Let's begin with quotations. As you can see from this example, a quotation is a piece of text taken directly from another writer. We use quotation marks to show this. This example uses double quotation marks. Another thing you'll notice in this text is that the reference in brackets includes the page number. This is the practice with direct quotations. The previous example used double quotation marks around the quote. You may decide to use single quotation marks, but whatever you do, be consistent. Quotations should not be used very often. They need to mark only certain pieces of essential information or ideas from which your work progresses. For example, definitions, as in this example about the characteristics of spoken speech. The borrowing of an apt metaphor, as in this example. Or highlighting a gap in the research that your project may attempt to fill, as in this quote from Rotter, which questions the replicability of previous research. Let's look at direct quotations more closely. In this example from Lisa French in her thesis on Jane Campion, French quotes directly from Jane Campion, who's the subject of her thesis. She uses the subject's words to support her analysis of Campion's directorial style. This is quite a long quote, so it's been indented. Note also that with long indented quotes, no quotation marks are used. This referencing style using footnotes is the Chicago referencing style. It's used in design, media, communication, and cultural studies, among other disciplines. In this thesis example, as we've noted earlier, Carolyn Tan seeks to emphasize the close relationship between a company's profile and the entrepreneur who shaped it by borrowing the metaphor used by the authors. How can we separate the dancer from the dance? This metaphor has an essential or memorable quality. That is, readers are likely to hold this message as they read on. You'll note that Tan has opted for single quotation marks for direct quotes. Graduate researcher Sophia Ery placed this quotation in its text box at the start of her thesis. It's an epigraph in that it contains the essential theme or argument of her thesis, which focuses on her historical and enduring relationship with her wardrobe. Note how there are no quotation marks because the text box and the font she chooses differentiates the quotation from the rest of her writing. There is a mistake in the reference. Only the title of the book should be in italics. Sometimes when we introduce something unusual into our standard text template, we make these mistakes. So this is something to watch out for. This example shows a very long quote used by Bradley Clark in his thesis. As with Sophia Eries, it opens the introduction, but its purpose is slightly different in that it offers a clear rationale for the research and highlights its real-world importance. By using the words of an international agency to establish up front the major risks to health and the environment that chemicals can pose, the reader is primed to engage with Bradley Clark's solution. Unusually, Clark has indented the text, written it in italics, and included double quotation marks. I would delete the quotation marks because there are already enough indications that it's a quote. Now we'll look closely at the art of paraphrasing. A paraphrase is the idea of someone else written in your own words. In this example, the authors open the sentence and a reporting verb is used to indicate the purpose behind their status. Reason and McArdle are the authors, and followed by the year of publication, explain that. So we understand that they're explaining or defining participative worldview. We paraphrase the work of others in order to build our ideas on those of others, either in support or in argument. Another purpose of paraphrasing is to show that we understand the ideas of those we're reading and quoting or paraphrasing. We can rephrase them for our own purposes without changing the writer's intended meaning. We paraphrase by reading a text about a concept or idea, making brief notes, putting the text aside, thinking about it, and then writing about it in our own words. We check to see that we're using the correct terminology and that we've created a different sentence or paragraph structure without changing the original meaning. All the while we ask ourselves, is it clear to the reader that I'm using this information to advance my own research argument or ideas? Summaries are short texts that carry the main features of a concept or process or object. They are paraphrases, but they tend to be descriptive or explanatory in nature. If you're not sure how to construct a summary, do the summarizing tutorial in the Study and Learning Centre's Learning Lab. Here's a short example about K channels. Don't be concerned if you don't know anything about the topic. From the summary, you learn something about their location, their function, the process, and the impacts. You don't learn what they are. We expect that the previous paragraph has dealt with the what in some detail. We learn that K channels are very important managers of cell health. Hala Raghib is setting the stage to introduce the rationale for the research topic. Now we're going to explore in-text referencing in some detail. As you're already aware, academic text uses in-text referencing to demonstrate the links between our research and previous research. It can be read as a conversation or dialogue with past and current scholars in the field. By noting the works of others, we're able to build an argument or case for our own research. Depending on our focus, we can choose to emphasize either the information based on research or the researcher themselves. And we'll use a particular referencing style favoured in our discipline. Here you've got information prominent referencing. And here you've got author prominent referencing. Author prominent citations place the researcher scholar as the subject of the sentence. Information prominent citations promote the content over the person. In the first example, an author date system is used. Note how this citation is a paraphrase, so a page number is not required. In the second example, an endnote system is used. Let's examine this in more detail. Weak author prominence, such as reference to several researchers or other theorists, indicates that your intention is to show that research in the field is not unusual. It also suggests that you will qualify or counter this research either by referring to others or by offering your own research as different in some way. Pause the video now if you'd like to look at this more closely. Strong author prominence, on the other hand, alerts the reader to the fact that this research is connected closely to the thesis or dissertation topic in some way. In these two examples, the researchers are named. O'Regan et al.'s findings are stated and Jones' tentative finding is raised. Pause the video if you'd like to look at this more closely. Here's another example of strong author prominent citation. In this example, Schoen is introduced as the scholar whose theory or definition of the design studio will form a foundation for the current research. Schoen is a leading scholar in the field of action-based learning and research, so his name is likely to be placed in a prominent position. For example, if you're referring to Einstein, you're not likely to make him an information prominent citation. You're likely to put his name at the front. Information prominent citations are used to report on facts or behaviours that are relevant to the current research, as in this example. Note that the theme or the subject of the sentence takes the front position, while the reme or complementary statement takes the latter part of the sentence. So the focus for this sentence is on the diligent efforts. The best way to build your referencing skills is to notice how the experts in your field do it. As you read journal articles and other theses, look out for quotations, paraphrasing, and summaries. Check for author or information prominent citations. Every discipline uses them with different degrees of frequency, so pay attention to this. Also think about the ways in which you manage your citations and bibliographic lists. Are you using reference management software such as EndNote or Sente or Zotero or another system? And finally, maintain active engagement with the texts of others. Write notes and comments in the margins of texts. Underline quotable quotes. Consider writing summaries or paraphrases by hand rather than directly onto the computer screen. Sometimes the physical act of writing on the page, in your research diary or journal, for example, can change the way ideas are expressed, especially in the early stages. Here's the reference list where examples were borrowed from. Pause the video now if you'd like to look more closely. Over a century ago, Ralph Waldo Emerson observed that much of what we think, say, and write are quotations from those that have come before us. Authors such as David Shields argue that academic referencing supposes that the words we place in quotation marks are in fact original to the author, when in fact they're merely borrowed from someone else that came before. He suggests we dispense with referencing altogether. In his manifesto, Reality Hunger, he interleaves unreferenced quotations by others with his own reflections. He invites the reader to cut out the reference list at the back of the book and throw it away. I was excited by this idea initially, but as I read his text, I found myself really wanting to know whose words he deliberately borrowed and the thoughts that he attributed to himself. I like the idea of a community of thinkers and writers connected by the warp and woof of the old and new. Acknowledging others emphasizes the web of relationships that contribute to the construction of knowledge as we know it. And this is the academic convention. Cheers.